And the lane that I want to be in is I want to offer people hope beyond sobriety, hope beyond what you would call recovery. All right, folks. Hey, it's been some time. My name's Jim Quigley. If you have been following our page, it started off as Recovery Talk, and we have changed things around. I did give an update about 6 weeks ago. I had pulled over and just gave a quick update of things changing and coming soon, and here's our first one. So we are no longer at the radio station. As you can see, I was not able to continue on with the radio station just because of school. So a lot's been changing in my own personal life with school, work, family, all of that. And the guy that I used to brag about behind the scenes, Todd, has set up a little studio for us here at Freedom Farm headquarters, and we are doing a podcast, our first podcast. We've got mics, we've got computers, lights, multiple cameras, and yeah, so that's what we're doing right now. So say hi, Todd, to everyone.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
You know, for any of you guys that were following the show before, it was always one of my favorite things to do. We've got a plan to start doing these, and we want as much participation from anybody that's been interested, been helped by any of the podcasts or the live shows before from the radio station. But it's going to be a little bit different of a format now. We still will have interviews with men and women that are wanting to come in and share their stories, but we also want to bring up topics and discuss things. One of the things that I said just a minute ago that's changed a lot is I'm in school now. I'm pursuing a master's in what they call a master's in Christian counseling, but it's basically a master's in biblical counseling. The difference between the two is something that we probably are going to talk a little bit about today and to talk about in further episodes. But yeah, exciting stuff.
Yeah, so what we're going to do basically, instead of where before we would just do the radio show and then we would I would take that live video and turn it into a YouTube video and we would post it on our website. What I'm going to do with these instead is we're going to, once we get 2 or 3 of them in the books, we're going to actually start a podcast. So you're going to be able to listen to the edited audio version on Stitcher or on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts at. We're also going to edit the live videos down and post those to a Beyond Sobriety YouTube channel as full versions of the show, and then as well we're going to chop up each of the live versions into segments that make sense, so that maybe talk about a particular item that we want to talk about. So there's going to be multiple, and then we've got a website as well. So we're also going, we're trying to be all places and try to. Our goal is to try to expand the discussion of biblical transformation and in addiction recovery, which kind of leads us into why you tell us a little bit, for those that may not know, how Recovery Talk started and kind of what has transpired to kind of bring us to where we are now.
Sure. So I've spent a third of my life in what you would basically just call substance abuse treatment. Okay, so I have to think about saying it that way because normally we would just call it recovery. I've been in recovery for a third of my life, and I'm not going to get into my whole story and all that, but basically I have 2 big chunks of my life. 6 years I was between 24 and 30 I was living a sober life, and I had an experience through all of that. And then I relapsed after 6 years, and I was in a relapse for 5 years. And I came here to the high country for probably I think it's my fourth or fifth program in a couple-year period. And this is where my life started the next large segment of continuous sobriety, which has now, in February coming up, will be 9 years. And a lot of things have changed and things have happened during that time. So one of those things is I've started to understand some importance about even language we use when it comes to dealing with people that are struggling with the bondage of substance abuse. And we started this show because, interestingly enough, we had a graduate of the program that I work for here called Freedom Farm Ministries. He got a job at a local radio station and called me, excited just to tell me about it. And obviously he wanted to try to sell me some advertisement. And anyway, we still do advertise on the radio show, but we got into a discussion about having a show about people that struggle with substance abuse, and at the time we came up with the name Recovery Talk. So the idea was it was going to be a radio program where people could literally call in, and I would be able to answer questions they might have, give some encouragement. It just never worked out that way. For one, it was not a very good time during the day to do that. 10:30 in the morning on Thursday, you never know. But we didn't have much call-in, so that the show went from being a call-in show to more of just having guests all the time. And primarily those guests would come in and just share, their experience when it came to their own journey out of the bondage of addiction. And we went over a year. We did that consistently for over a year, and it was a great time. And then another event happened, which was I felt called to continue with education, and signed up to go back to school, seminary, and which basically took away Thursdays at 10:30. Thursdays at 10:30, I am driving to Charlotte, which is a 2-hour ride from here in Boone, to attend class. Currently this semester I'm in 2 courses. So I get home on Thursdays at 11 o'clock, and since that's been the break in between doing the radio show, and in the meantime, Todd and I have been talking about just getting this thing onto a podcast and seeing what the Lord may do with it now. So, right.
So then you talked a little bit about it in the introduction, but the name change between Beyond Recovery Talk and now Beyond Sobriety.
Right.
What's been your kind of the transformation that you've went through as far as wanting to change the verbiage that people use, as opposed to using the word recovery, which is kind of the industry standard, what everybody knows,
right,
and how everybody refers to people that are in recovery, whether it's pornography, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whatever.
Recovery is a good word. It's actually a good word. Yeah. So this is stemming from some of the education that I'm receiving, friends that I've made, and realizing myself too that this world that I move in is a very large world, right? people across this country are struggling with the bondage of substance abuse, and it's at a record high. Everybody understands that. Everybody understands the deaths, which have gone down a little bit just this year, and that's a whole show's topic, but basically it's the deaths went down a little bit this year, but they had been consistently on the rise since 1999, and they had gone from 16,000 in 1999 to 73,000 in 2017. So you can imagine this world has gotten extremely big because that's people dying. So imagine how many people are actually struggling with it. So all that to say, the world of dealing with people with substance abuse is large, and the longer that I've been in it, the more I've realized that I have a specific lane that I want to be in. And the lane that I want to be in is I want to offer people hope beyond sobriety, hope beyond what you would call recovery. So the word recovery, the way that I am understanding that word, the way I associate the word recovery is similar to, let's say I had injured myself and I broke my arm. Well, a person that breaks their arm goes and gets looked at by the doctor, and they get a cast and maybe have some physical therapy. But that whole process is recovery. You're wanting to recover from your broken arm.
Get back to the state you were before.
You want to get back to the state that you were before. That's not the lane that I want to travel in, okay? Again, sobriety is a good thing. Recovery is a good thing, but I'm not trying to... I want to be upfront with people right at the beginning. I want people to understand that we're not trying to get you back to your original state. We're trying to get you beyond that. Hence the name Beyond Sobriety, and the transition from using the word recovery. So,
So when you say beyond sobriety, then what do you mean? So obviously sobriety, when you're talking about substance abuse, when you're talking about addiction to chemicals, sobriety is part of the process.
Sure.
I mean, that is, and it's even, you would say, maybe a central part of the process.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But what is it that's beyond that you're talking? I mean, what is it when you say beyond sobriety? What is that?
Sure. And so this is more of the specific lane that I operate in now. I want to help out everybody that struggles with substance abuse, and I want to offer them help. Now, specifically, the help that I want to point people to is a transformed life through a relationship with God made possible through the work of Jesus Christ. Now, so that's Christian philosophy, a path fundamentally supported by what we as Christians call the gospel. And that is very specific when you are getting into people talking about substance abuse and treatment and all that in this world. Actually, this is one of the things that makes it actually kind of hard to be in the lane that we're in, is that it's not the accepted. People have put labels on what is proper treatment. You know, what is something that is acceptable right now, as far as, like, I have insurance and I have a medical condition and I need help. That's the way that substance abuse is looked at right now, by the secular world. And I don't fit that lane. And what we are talking about specifically doesn't fit that lane. So actually we don't get access to a lot of the funding that goes to what the problem is, because we are in a specific, we are using a specific mindset and philosophy in talking about this. So
The best known recovery program out there, would be a 12-step program, AA or NA or that kind of philosophy. So where do you see how does that differ from what you're talking about?
Sure. So the AA itself, like if you were to look up an AA meeting and say I want to go to an AA meeting or an NA meeting, and there's a whole bunch of different ones. You can go to CA meetings, which is like for Cocaine Anonymous, and so anyway, they wouldn't call themselves a program. They would actually call themselves a fellowship. So they are officially a fellowship, but this is where things get kind of tricky, because places that have become like programs, they actually present themselves as a 12-step based program. So this is where that kind of this language gets passed around. So you can go to an AA fellowship, right? And this is available to anybody on the planet, because it's the largest international fellowship. And you can also go to a 12-step based program. So that is a distinction, I think, that gets kind of lost in just real quickly talking about stuff. But all of the fellowship and the program both revolve around what are called the 12 steps. Okay, so that is the one common denominator between it all. Now, the 12 steps have been out there since I don't think all 12 of them existed back in the 30s when Dr. Bob and Bill started this whole thing. But the 12 steps have come along since the 30s. I think originally it was only like 4 or 6 steps, and it's grown into what it has now. Honestly, man, I spent years in 12-step fellowship. What I can tell you is I met some of the nicest people that I've ever met in my life. But me as a Christian, looking back, it created more confusion than good, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to be fair, but yeah, it created a lot of confusion for me as a Christian, and this is what I mean. So, personal autonomy, I believe, as a human being, I believe that that it is a negative when it comes to being a Christian. And if you want to talk about there being a creator God in general, I would say that personal autonomy is probably a negative in that realm also. What I mean by that
what is personal autonomy?
Is I want to be in charge of my own destiny. I want to be self-sufficient. I want to say what I want my life to look like, and I want to be about a more a negative word to describe it, self-centered. Self-centered. Personal autonomy, and so Christianity leaves no room for that. Okay, Christianity says that. Christ says, apart from me, you can do nothing. This is in John chapter 15. Like, apart from me, you can do nothing. He describes himself as, he's the vine, we're branches. We need him for everything, all our sustenance. Explains, how our daily needs, our past, present, and future are all in his hands. These are all things that we need to understand as Christians. So put that into a 12-step fellowship where this is what I understood. There is a God. Now, they obviously a God of your own understanding, and they present a pathway to get to that God, and that pathway were these steps, right, that I had to take, and these steps would eventually give me my pathway to living this life that I am in charge of. And again, for me, that was more destructive to my thinking than it was a positive, because as that stopped working for me, because I obviously had success for a while, as that stopped working for me, there was kind of like the double pain of my problem as I failed was that here I am failing, and I know what I need to do to get myself out of it. I just need to get myself out of it. And it just started to compound and keep me further and further down. I don't know if that's satisfactory in explaining, really. I might be a little too nuanced there, but I don't see it. People will say all the time, well, you can have 12 steps and be a Christian and it can be a good thing. I have said that. I have said, like, if you know Christ, you can work the 12 steps. And I see the more and more, I just have more problems with it.
Yeah, actually, several months ago, you wrote an article. I cannot remember the name of the magazine.
Dr. Jim Dennison, the Dennison Forum is you can. They offered. Well, they quoted something I had said from another article. We contacted them, and they allowed us to write an article. It was about exactly what I'm saying. So we will post that up for
I'll put it in the show notes and also put a link to it in the video descriptions and things, depending on where you're seeing this. But as kind of a way of closing this up, because we're about 22 minutes or so. We're trying to hit between 15 and 30 minutes for each one of these episodes. So as a way of kind of bringing this one to a close, talk about, is this beyond sobriety idea, the idea of Christ transforming your life and transforming the addiction out of your life, is that the only way to addiction recovery, or is it available to everybody, and is it the right thing for everybody?
Okay, so obviously the Bible says specific things about who's going to hear and receive the message of Christ, and unfortunately, it's kind of bleak. Actually, it says that the path is narrow and few find it. Most people go on the broad path. Now, if that's true, which I believe it is, then this kind of makes more back to what I was saying. My lane now. I don't know who is going to receive these things. I don't know who's going to. So I'm just going to do my part. I'm going to continue to proclaim this truth. Can people find sobriety on the broad path? Absolutely. I have met numerous people that have multiple years of sobriety through secular means.
And you did as well.
Yeah, I did. I think my problem, obviously, is I didn't find what I was looking for. If I was to quote Bono from U2, okay, I still hadn't found what I was looking for. During my 6 years of sobriety, I went to Bible college, man. I went to a 4-year degree to study the Bible and go into ministry, and I ended up relapsing after that. So there was a giant missing piece. Now, but I'm still kind of forced to say that apart from being delivered from substance abuse, I mean, obviously, true deliverance from sin is only found in what I'm talking about. So, can somebody be truly delivered apart from Christ? The answer is simply no. I mean, that would be a fundamental, fact that I believe. But can other people find happiness in life in a human way apart from Christ? Yeah, actually, the Bible says that. It says that if you look at people as they're pursuing things, it says they get their reward now and whatnot. We're talking about more of a life after this one and whatnot. So it's kind of a tricky question. I don't know if I'm answering it well, but there is pathways to sobriety through secular means that have nothing to do with Jesus Christ. But what I want to talk about is beyond sobriety. Back to the name of the show, and it's specifically, I'm called, I believe, to the addicted. So I'm working specifically with the addicted, but my message to the addicted is not addiction specific. It's Christ specific. So, and and anybody's invited to hear that message. And I invite anybody that wants to hear it to come, and I'd be glad to be able to sit down and talk to them about it. So,
all right. So that brings us to the end of our first episode, Beyond Sobriety #1.
Do we do a clap or something?
I don't know what we do. But anyway, so if you want to make sure that you get informed when we're going to do these, and you get informed when we post to our YouTube channel and all that stuff, if you go to our website, it's beyondsobriety.org. If you go there, you can sign up to the email list, and you'll get an email every time we're going to go live on Facebook, every time we're going to every time we post a video on YouTube or post a new podcast episode. All that will be there. So again, that address is beyondsobriety.org. And if you want to continue to interact with us, you can do it. Probably the best place to do that would probably be on the Facebook page. But you can also respond to those emails that we send you, or you can get us on YouTube or the other places you want as well. There will be articles and podcast episodes on the website as well that you can leave comments there as well. So thanks for tuning in. Any last words before we call it?
Yeah, I would just say anybody that graciously watched this first episode, if you guys have any ideas, please send us a message to the Facebook page, to our website. We'd love to have any ideas. If you're interested in being on the show, let us know. We'd love to have you come in and have a discussion about anything that has to do with substance abuse. We'll talk about secular things, even if you completely disagree with what I'm saying. I'll be happy to sit down and talk to anybody and have a friendly conversation about
maybe even especially if you disagree.
Yeah, especially if you disagree. Come on in. I would love to have a conversation. I am, again, called in my life to minister to the addicted. I want to do that the best way I possibly can, and that means making friends with people that are called in other areas, maybe totally disagree with me. So
right. And so if you know somebody that, or if you are somebody that would like to be on the show or share a perspective, we can do those by telephone or by video call as well. You don't have to come here and come to Boone and talk to us in person. We can do it over the phone or over the internet. So
I forgot about that cool thing. We can actually do the show with you part of it, and you don't have to leave the comfort of your living room.
Yeah. So
technology is amazing.
Technology's great. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Friday at 3 is when we're going to do the lives. So if you want to be in on the lives, then watch for us Friday at 3.
All right, folks.
Talk
Thank
later.
you.